The moment the little girl's voice broke the stillness of the crisp autumn evening, something in the man's chest tightened like a fist. It wasn't the words alone, it was the way she said them, soft yet certain, as if announcing a truth too big for her small frame to hold. The sun was dipping behind the brick buildings of downtown Portland, Maine, staining the library windows gold as the child tugged harder at her father's sleeve. And when he finally lifted his eyes and saw the woman standing near the entrance, holding a book she pretended to read, everything inside him trembled with the weight of a past he thought he'd buried. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, please like this video, share it with someone who might need hope today, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that touch the heart. James Turner had spent the last 3 years learning how to keep his world from collapsing. After losing his wife in a sudden accident, he had convinced himself the only thing he needed to focus on was raising his daughter, Grace. She was only 4 then, barely old enough to understand why mommy wasn't coming home anymore. James had quit his engineering job, taken part-time work at a hardware store, and moved closer to his parents so Grace would grow up with a sense of family, even if it wasn't the one she started with. But grief, James had learned, didn't disappear. It lingered in unexpected places, like the quiet moments after Grace fell asleep, or the hollow ache in the grocery store aisle where his wife used to compare brands of cereal, laughing at how seriously she treated the small things. He met Claire Bennett 2 years after the tragedy, though calling it meeting felt wrong. She wasn't some stranger who walked into his life, she was the librarian who had spent months gently coaxing Grace out of her shell during story hour every Wednesday. Claire had a talent for making children feel safe, and Grace adored her long before James realized he was beginning to notice her too. Her warm voice, her soft humor, the gentle way she knelt to tie a child's shoes, it all stirred something James had been terrified to feel again. But losing someone once makes you fear losing anyone at all, and no matter how much he found himself drawn to Claire, he kept pushing those feelings away. Distance felt safer than hope. Yet Claire never pushed, never demanded. She simply offered kindness, steadily, consistently, with an ease that made James question why he fought it so much. Still, every time Claire asked if he wanted to join one of the parent reading groups, he declined. When she suggested a community event Grace might enjoy, he thanked her but didn't go. He avoided long conversations. He avoided eye contact. He avoided anything that could make Grace believe they were becoming a family with someone new. But Claire never seemed hurt. Only patient. Always patient. Until 3 weeks ago, when she finally stopped approaching him first. James had noticed it immediately. No gentle smile waiting when he walked into the library. No casual comment about the weather or a new children's book. She stayed near the front desk now, greeting other parents, helping visitors, always polite but intentionally careful not to intrude. James told himself it was a relief. But the strange heaviness in his chest argued otherwise. That was when Grace started noticing something too. She waited again today, Grace had said the week before, swinging her legs as they sat in the car outside the library. Miss Claire was by the window. She looked outside a lot. James brushed it off, saying maybe she was just thinking. But the truth gnawed at him. Now, standing on the cool pavement outside the library, Grace's words pressed into him again, more direct this time, more impossible to ignore. He followed her pointing finger and met Claire's eyes. She offered a small smile, hesitant, as if unsure whether she was welcome in his world anymore. James felt something break open inside him. He walked with Grace toward her, each step pulling memories and fears up from the deepest corners of his heart. The wind shifted, carrying the smell of old books and fallen leaves, and in that moment James realized how tired he was. Tired of running from life, tired of pretending he didn't want connection, tired of protecting himself so fiercely that he ended up protecting himself from happiness too. Claire greeted Grace first, crouching slightly to meet her bright eyes. Grace talked excitedly about the new picture book she'd picked, her small hands waving dramatically as if telling the most important story in the world. Claire laughed softly, and James saw something familiar in her expression, affection, warmth, and a quiet hope she had never voiced aloud. As they walked inside together, James felt the library's gentle hush wrap around him. Rows of books rose like old friends on either side, the soft overhead lights making everything feel calmer somehow. Claire guided Grace to the children's corner, helping her choose a few more books. Every gesture was effortless, natural, like someone who belonged in their lives long before either of them realized it. For the first time since his wife's passing, James allowed himself to imagine a future that wasn't built on fear. A future where he didn't have to walk alone. A future where Grace's laughter echoed alongside someone else's steady, comforting presence. But hope is fragile when held by someone who's been shattered before. James hesitated, standing in the aisle, torn between stepping forward and stepping away again. Then Grace looked back at him, her small hand slipping into Claire's without hesitation, and James knew this wasn't just about him anymore. His little girl wasn't afraid of the world. She wasn't afraid to love again. She wasn't afraid to believe in people. And maybe, just maybe, it was time for him to learn from her. James walked to Claire, his voice softer than he intended as he thanked her for everything she'd done for Grace. Claire looked surprised, then touched. Something unspoken passed between them, vulnerable, hesitant, but real. James admitted, in a halting breath, that he hadn't known how to let anyone in since the accident. Claire didn't try to fix him. She didn't try to fill the silence with comforting words. She simply listened, offering the kind of understanding that settles into a person slowly but deeply. They stood there among the books, the air thick with the tentative beginnings of trust, and James felt the quiet shift of something new taking root. Not a replacement for what he'd lost, but a companion for what he still had. If this story has touched your heart even a little, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might need a reminder that hope can return in the most unexpected ways. Before you go, tell us in the comments, what part of the story moved you the most? And as James and Grace stepped out of the library that evening, the cool wind swirling around them, Grace looked up with a smile that seemed to know far more than her years could explain. She held his hand tightly, her book tucked under her arm, and whispered, as if sharing a secret with the world, that maybe Mommy had sent Miss Claire to them so they'd never feel alone again. And for the first time in years, James believed she might be right.